Hey guys, my name is RyanCentral and welcome to HitScan. It's been a while, it's been 2 weeks since we last made a video, which was on the latest patch, patch 2.04, where Astra came out, all of Act 2 in Episode 2 started, and we made like 6 videos in 3 days. So there's not really been any news since. I needed a bit of a break, but now we have the latest patch, which has some really good stuff in there, but it is missing on some important details, which we'll touch on as well in this video, as well as the new skins. Before we get started, shout out to Attila for winning the 10,000 Valorant point giveaway. We'll probably do another giveaway in like Episode 3, start of that potentially, bit later on perhaps. And also we are very close, very close to 400,000 subscribers. It would be amazing to hit that. Honestly, it would be awesome. Maybe 500,000 by the end of the year. It might be a bit of an overstep, but fingers crossed, who knows. But if you haven't subscribed, it would mean an absolute ton. Let's go over the patch, and this has majority changes to the likes of promoting better player behavior, as well as penalties and AFK detection. And these are the main things to really highlight, and we'll start with the social updates that have come in. These changes are really easy to highlight because there isn't much to say. They've said that there's improved AFK detection, they've updated penalties for AFK offenses, which get stronger over time. You get warnings, then a queue restriction, then stuff like XP denial, then you get into competitive queue bans, and then in-game bans if you keep AFKing in games, and updated penalties for chat-banned people in a similar way. It's also the same for chat-based offenses. You have your warnings, you have your chat restrictions, competitive queue restrictions, which is new, and then game bans. And a reminder that zero tolerance for offenses will result in game bans automatically. Stuff like cheating, probably saying words you shouldn't, or saying stuff over voice comms that you shouldn't. Those kind of areas, you're just going to get banned straight away. You don't have that slap on the wrist first. There is something really funny in here too as well, especially from like a European and knowing a guy, but the top of the patch notes say that this one's about putting you on your best behavior. Our social or player dynamics team is out here making sure that we can detect AFK players and promote better behavior with penalties for chat-based and AFK offenses, which we've spoken about. This also includes keeping com-restricted players from jumping into the competitive queue. In brackets, you can stop asking now, Lothar. Which, yeah, he's been very vocal, and I've been in like the dev calls where we sometimes have in the playtests where the devs sit down and answer some questions from us. This was a big one that Lothar has brought up pretty much every time we've had one, so I'm glad that he gets to answer, and I think for Europeans, it's a big thing too, considering we sometimes play with CIS players, which can't use voice anyway for legal reasons, and then we have players that have been so toxic that they get chat banned. They ask to invite you to their party so they could talk to you, and then they just flame you. I think that this is a great way of just getting rid of some of the toxicity at the top levels in both major regions in North America and Europe, but I think this is a nice change. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, or the elephant that isn't in the room, which is there's no balance changes. There is some small stuff to Sova and Astra where you can now have unique keybinds to fly up and down in both the owl drone and also in the astral form. There's one other thing I wanted to highlight real quick, which is important, where if you now dodge a competitive game, you will now receive a small rank rating penalty for dodging those games. This has been spoken about before. The devs have a full post on this, which you can highlight. But as of this patch going out, which should be in about 8 hours, maybe not even that for North America, and about 30 years for Europe, you won't be able to dodge competitive queues without being penalized, even just a little bit for it. But if you don't know what that means, I'm not going to go over it here. There's a full article talking about some of the changes that are now in the game, which is good, but I would love to have seen some balance changes, especially to the likes of Yoru, maybe even Astra, and also Viper. If you are also one of those people that's a bit disappointed that there's no agent changes, don't fret, because they're probably coming in the next patch, and then some. This actually came from Altombre, who is one of the main developers on stuff like gameplay. And this came from the patch notes in the last patch, patch 2.04, and it came from Reddit, where somebody asked, where are the Yoru and Viper changes? It's an area that the devs have been talking about a lot. They said when they teased Astra that they were looking to see where things landed before they changed up Viper, but Yoru definitely needs buffs. He's not in a state where he's any good on any team, and I think his competitive career and stuff like Challengers and Masters, where he was played like twice, I think says a lot for the majority of cases. But they asked where it is, and Altombre says that because Masters is getting played on this patch and at the moment, we're avoiding disruptive changes, and Astra isn't available to play Masters 2, so there is that. But he also says, for full transparency, 2.05, which is this patch, is likely to be lighter as we keep an eye on Astra's launch and ensure that she's healthy, that she's balanced. So because Masters is going on at the moment and we've just had a new agent, they're being very handed on any balance changes, but they did say that from patch 2.06, which is in 2 weeks time, to patch 2.09, sorry, I'm terrible with sort of naming these, but effectively over the next 2 to 6 weeks, there is going to be balance changes, there is going to be buffs to both Viper and Yoru. He also goes on to say, apologizing, basically saying that we wanted to ship these changes as soon as possible, but there's only so many set of hands and a lot to juggle, which is fair enough when you have a new act, a new agent, and all of the balance changes that came with it. Assuming that Astra lands in a reasonably balanced spot, Yoru and Viper will be getting priority for changes. It is disappointing to hear. They're disappointed too. Rest assured that they'll get these out as soon as they can. If you have any questions, let us know. A lot of people asked balance questions that we might highlight maybe in another video this week, but let's keep on to the news. If you're wondering where the balance changes are, that's exactly where they're in. I lastly wanted to talk about the new patch when it comes to the skins, because there is one bundle that's been shown to us, and it is the Infantry bundle, which on the looks of it has an Ares, it has a Marshal, which is well timed, a Guardian, a Ghost, and a Spectre. I really like the look of these. These remind me of your typical Medal of Honor guns, right? But it also gives me a hint of Jacobs from Borderlands, the Hammerlock guns that you can get, those kind of weaponry, because they're very clinical, they look really sharp, but that's pretty much it when it comes to the skins too. I do think that this is a patch where they wanted to keep committing to the 2-week cycle, but realistically there wasn't too much to highlight here when it comes to balance or gun gameplay, because there's been so many big changes recently. I do think the likes of the Bucky could maybe get a bit of a nerf just to keep it in line with how strong it is in comparison to how little it costs, because it's a very bang for your buck, which I guess is the whole point of it. But yeah, when it comes to the actual patch that come out today, isn't too much, and there's been literally zero news from Riot side over the last 2 weeks. So I mean, it makes sense after a big patch and a big start of an act like we've just had. We had a good game mode with Escalation 2. We have been ripe for amazing content, I think. So, and as well as all of the skins that have come out recently. So I really like this set. It's a shame that there isn't a Top Gun of a Phantom or a Vandal, for example. But a Ghost looks really nice. The Marshal, I think, is going to be a pickup. And maybe we'll have some gameplay of these. But up until now, I've just seen this one image. So that's everything from the patch. Before we finish, I do want to talk about Masters, which is the big esports tournament happening at the moment. If you're confused on the format of Masters and what it's supposed to be, it's effectively like First Strike in 2020, but again, it's basically the finals of all of the major regions, playing out for pretty decent prize pools, but also points, and those points will decide whether you go to basically Worlds for Valorant at the end of the year. And so we have North America going on at the moment, Europe, Korea, Southeast Asia, Brazil, Latin America, CIS Turkey, which is separate from Europe currently. And if you want more information about how it all works, I do have another YouTube channel which is just called RyanCentral Valorant, where I talk about the esports scene in more detail, because I am a caster and analyst. And so if you want to keep up to date with the esports scene more, I would definitely recommend subscribing to that channel. But in short, what do we have at the moment? FaZe Clan is cracked. They're smeaging their way all the way to the grand finals at this rate. They will be playing up against Sentinels in the sort of winners bracket. There are 6 teams left, I think. So who is there? There's currently there is FaZe Clan and Sentinels in the upper bracket. Then in the lower bracket, you have 100 Thieves, you have Immortals, which will be playing up against Gen G and Immortals, maybe respectively, something like that. So there's 6 teams left, but FaZe Clan and Sentinels are looking the brightest currently. In Europe, you've got FPX, Ninjas in Pajamas, and Team Heretics all doing relatively well. I'm doing this off the top of my head. They're all looking good. Defuse as well, which a drop in their team is looking really nice right now, like a top tier 1 team in Europe. CIS Turkey, you've got the expected names of Forza, Gambit, BBL, Oxygen, all doing what they should be. Korea is still Vision Strikers on top, but only by a small margin. TNL, actually TNL didn't get close. It's Newturn that are making it super close between the two, so I could see a final between those two teams. The only region that's finished right now is Latin America North, which has LDM crowning out and getting the full prize pool and the 100 points which go towards Masters, as one team from Latin America North and South will be making their way to Worlds later this year. If that's confusing, I don't blame you. It's a very awkward system. So if you do want a more of a precise explanation, again, check out the other YouTube channel. But I'm really excited to see FaZe Clan play. I'm really excited to see FaZe Clan play against like Brazilian teams or some of the slower European styles like Ninjas in Pajamas or Heretics. It really is a movable object, unstoppable force. But we have to wait until May. There is going to be a YouTube series on the other channel, which is like the Road to Masters, I guess we'll call it. We can talk a bit more detail about the teams in the world. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you very much for all of the support on the channel recently. It's been a long break. I think it's the longest I've gone without making a YouTube video, but it was needed. I got really burnt out from making all of the Astra stuff, and there's been no news since, right? So what is the point in, making that content, I suppose, when there's nothing to make it on? I pride myself on just making videos as and when necessary, so I'm not putting out kind of just BS fluff content in between. There will be some esports content probably on this channel as we go into Masters 2, because I want this channel to be more included in the esports scene, because I'm included in the esports scene, but I'll let you you guys tell me if you want that or not, basically. Thanks for watching, take care, we'll see you next time.